Welcome everyone to the World Unity Week and our room here, Journeys into New Earth Frequencies and Sacred Geometry. Antonia Albano and I are thrilled to welcome our amazing friend, Hope Fitzgerald, and I'm delighted to introduce her. In 2010, after years of spiritual exploration, Hope received 3 visions representing an evolutionary push for the planet. The final one was a standing figure 8 made of flowing water called the infinity wave. This 10th dimensional energetic tool was sent to more quickly and easily transform suffering into freedom during the tumultuous times that are upon us now. Ever since, Hope has dedicated her life to applying the infinity wave for the positive development of the individual, the community, and the earth. She appeared on dozens of international shows, continuing to fulfill her mission to encourage individual and planetary awakening around the globe. Additionally, Hope uses intuitive dowsing to help people quickly gain clarity in their lives and guides groups on transformational journeys around the world. Today, she will introduce us to the 10th dimensional energetic tool called the infinity wave, and you will not only discover the many benefits of applying the non-dual wave to everyday life, but you will also experience a direct transmission of it through a guided meditation. I'm ready, Hope. Thank you for.
Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Antonia. It is so cool that we get to join here in our love of geometries, specifically infinities. And some folks here may not realize that Antonia and I go actually back pretty far, and since we found each other through that love of infinities. And so I just love that we're here together now. And Janice, I met earlier, I guess it was last year, this year, I can't even remember now, but not that long ago, but just know we're all in the same sandbox together, aren't we?
We are. We are, definitely.
So, okay, let me do my share screen thing. And just give me a moment while I make sure I am sharing sound correctly. Computer audio. Here it is. Okay, I think I've done it. Thank you for your patience. Okay, can you see this screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's try this again. Oh, I know what happened. Okay, one sec. Well, I think we're just going to have to go with the PowerPoint, forget about the music. Okay. Excuse me. I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting a bit of a snafu here. Oh dear. Well, okay. I don't know what to do here. 1 second.
Just do what you need to do. We'll wait.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Usually this works really well, but for some reason, when I'm asking to share the screen, it is defaulting to music and not letting me actually, okay, let's do this. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now you can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll see how we do with the music when the time comes. Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. So this little beauty is called the infinity wave. And I call it a quantum technology for surfing the new earth paradigms for a reason, because that's exactly what it is. And so I'm going to tell you how it came in. But first of all, I want us to just go into a mindset. And I know we're very open-minded people here, but sometimes, it can feel like a bridge too far. So I'm just going to ask everyone to really be willing to take a leap with me today and venture into the unknown. And if what I have to say at any time causes you to go, oh, I'm not sure about that, or that's not what I heard, or whatever, just take this beautiful belief bucket and put those ideas in there. Not to dump them, but just put them to the side. What's more important to me is that you sort of hang in there with me until the very end. Now, what we're going to be talking about is a quantum world, a world where, as you know very well, in the quantum, everything is connected to everything. Everything is mirrored. Everything is within a nanosecond of one another. We know this from various experiments that have been done, which I'll actually get to later. But we're not dealing necessarily, when we talk about the infinity wave, we're not dealing only in 3D. We're dealing with something that's from the quantum, that exists in the quantum, and that we can use in the quantum, even if we're in 3D. So what's going to be required here is a willingness to use your imagination, and remembering that the imagination is actually, I think of it, and I think many others do too, as our communication to the divine, to our intuition, to our guidance, to lots of things. Our imagination is a powerhouse. And unfortunately, many of us grew up thinking, oh, or being told it's just in your imagination. Well, I've come to realize that the imagination is incredibly rich. And so that's what we're going to be employing today. So here's the quick story about these three visions. In 2010, I had emerged from a very, very, excuse me, difficult year. Tragic things had happened, and I was completely spent, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I went to a sound healing workshop, actually 2 back-to-back in Washington State. And at the end of those workshops, I had really gone in with a quest, and that was just sort of, I always imagine it like I have a big copper inner bowl, big bowl in my belly. And my quest was to scrub it clean, was to really eliminate all story, all the gunk that had accumulated, not only over the previous year, but over my whole lifetime. And so each of the practices, the sound practices, I just went after it, scrub, 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 scrub. And of course, that process, now that I look back on it, I would say, well, it was one big initiation. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that way because I was just so in it. On the very last day, on the very last practice, I felt like I'd gotten so much insight, released so much, but there was one little dangling question that I still had. And so before the practice, I just thought, I just need to know this last piece. went into the practice, and it was revealed to me in living color. My question was answered, and it was such an elegant, graceful answer and unexpected that in my mind's eye at the end of the practice, I went prostrate on the floor. Out of my being sprung these words silently: I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will, out of gratitude for having been shown the reason for everything. And I really didn't think anything of it. And 3 days later, I was home feeling delightfully empty. And I was walking across my living room. My girlfriend was there, and I stopped in the middle of my living room because in front of me was this gigantic turquoise wave. And it was moving toward me slowly, and it didn't feel threatening. It was about 100 feet tall. If I couldn't even see that high, but it was very, very high. It didn't feel threatening. And there was a kind of a message, a byline with this image. And it basically said, this wave represents a push of evolution that is coming to the planet. And the main thing is to not resist it. Learn to surf it, learn to swim with it, and your evolution will go more smoothly. Okay. And then the next instant it turned, and it was like this. It was like that beautiful letter C that the curling wave makes. And the message with this one was, just as the water deepens into the seabed, into the earth, to get its energy to create the crest of the wave, that's how the physics works, so should you leave all your learning, all your book knowledge on the shore, deepen into the earth, deepen into the wisdom keepers of the earth for your knowledge. And then mix it with this incoming wave, this big first wave thing, whatever this push of evolution was. And then instead of the ocean water falling right back into the sea, it did this. It turned into a figure 8 made of flowing water. And that was hanging out in front of my face for about 18 inches for a couple of days, because there was no byline with that. There was no information. It just hung there. And I would walk around and this thing was in my way, you know. It's kind of annoying. And so after 3 days, I sat down with my dowsing rods. And fortunately, I'd been dowsing for many years by that point. So I had a way of conversing with them. And I asked about this thing. And so in a nutshell, I was told that this is called it could have a name. It's a metaphor. It's a representation. But if we wanted to call it something, we could call it the infinity wave. And it is a 10th dimensional energetic. It is that watery flow that you see is full of 10th dimensional love and compassion. And this was being given to us as a way to stay in a particular state during these tumultuous times that this big initial wave was predicting, this push of evolution that it was talking about. Well, I didn't know what to do with that. I wasn't in the habit of walking around talking about evolution at all. I never did. But I kept hearing this word about evolution. And I thought, well, you know, if we're supposed to be evolving, we're not really evolving in the background. You know, it's not happening just slowly over time. This sounds like something that's going to happen quickly. And if we're going to be participating in it, then it's more like conscious evolution. I thought that's what it sounds like, some kind of conscious evolution, like we're really aware of how we're going to be changing. So I went to Google and I'm looking up conscious evolution, and there's nothing there. It's hard to imagine now, but this is 2010. And the only thing that was there was Barbara Marx Hubbard had a program. It wasn't anything like what I think I was learning that even in those early stages. It was very different, but the words were there. So I thought, okay, I love her, so maybe I'm onto something here. Anyway, I was told during my dowsing that I was supposed to be teaching about this, and that I was supposed to start in January 2011, and that I was supposed to run weekend workshops all through September. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm teaching. What are you talking about? Now, the thing is, I had been a teacher, and I like to be prepared. I had charts and I had cards and I had all kinds of things for whatever I was teaching. I taught a bunch of different things. And the idea of teaching this, I didn't even know what the heck it was. They said, don't worry, we're gonna guide you as you go. Well, I was like, they said, make the date, pay for the room. And so I did. And immediately my knees began to knock, because I was now in a blind person walking a gangplank. Is how it felt to me. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I could invite people to actually pay for a workshop when I didn't even know what the heck I was doing. And on top of that, I really liked being a under the wire spiritual person. I had always studied spirituality. I'd gone down many, many roads and investigated many religions and philosophies and techniques. And I like to be kind of incognito. In the rest of my life, I'd been a performer, I'd been a teacher, as I said, I'd been a producer. I'd done a lot of things where I was a leader and I was in front, easy to be seen, but not in my spirituality. I didn't want to be that at all. I didn't feel worthy, to tell you the truth, even though I had many, many years under my belt. But my guides were so insistent, and they said, they pretty much put a foot in my bum and said, it's time for you to get out. Oh, I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that. But they reminded me that I had said, I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will. I thought they'd give me more than 3 days, but no. Nature abhors a vacuum, and in they came. They were just waiting for the moment, that's how it felt. Anyway, you can't say no to spirit. So I didn't. All right. So I think, okay, what am I going to do? So I went back to my teachings from 1976, if you can believe it, at Findhorn in Scotland, where they taught the principles that Teilhard de Chardin, the very famous Renaissance man in the 1800s, and monk, and he taught a theory of evolution that was quite interesting. You see the bottle there. Well, I'm going to go ahead and then go back. So what he taught was that, let's imagine that in the bottom of the bottle there, you see tiny little dots. And let's imagine those are atoms. And because everything, matter is swirling, right? It's actually swirling upwards. And as it starts to get into that bottleneck, which is called the peduncle, that's a French word, peduncle, it starts, all the little pieces start to rub against each other and create friction. And what happens is when they are squeezed, super squeezed, and they go through that bottleneck, they emerge as a slightly larger, more elegant version of themselves. Now, there's another piece to this, that Teilhard de Chardin believed that even in the tiniest piece of matter, of course, he thought about atoms, but this one, we know now there are even tinier things. But in every single piece of matter, there is what he called the God spark. And as this evolution happened into larger and larger entities, that God spark would also grow. So on his timeline, he showed evolution coming from, the tiniest particles and growing into plant life and so on, into animal life, et cetera. And we get to humanity, and then his curve went straight up. And at the top of that line with humanity, he had he called the superman. We'll call it the superhuman. And the qualities of the superhuman were, they showed a bigger head. Now, this could mean literally bigger heads. And actually, it's true that the human head has gotten bigger over the decades. It's bigger now than it was 50 years ago, definitely bigger than 100 years ago. But even if the actual structure of the brain, of the head, isn't bigger, the mind, the capacity of the mind could be represented that way. And when we think about the avatars that have been on our planet for quite some time, and ever more so now, you can see that this capacity for the mind, which is bigger than the brain, right? The mind is the one that has connection with all that is. And our abilities to tap into that mind and use that mind in our daily lives has definitely grown. Lots of people around us are just miraculous healers, doing all kinds of things. So I would say he was absolutely right in this. So here we show the spiral that is our etheric field, right? And so there we are, going through our lives with our etheric field around us. And then we meet a peduncle. And that means it's time for us to go through the peduncle, to go through the narrow chamber, AKA, it's time for us to evolve. So this is what the infinity wave, what I was being told, that we were being, it was going to make that process easier. Okay. So here's the evolution that I was speaking of. And it is, you may not realize this, but it was Teilhard de Chardin who said, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. He completely understood that. And of course, now we hear it all the time, but sometimes attributed to different people. So here we are in a time of tremendous chaos. I would say, we could all agree that the last number of years has been a chaotic time. And it has also been an opportunity for tremendous evolution. When you think about, aside from, actually even including all the losses of people, it's pushed us, many of us, to recognize how precious life is, to choose different pathways for ourselves. How many people have moved? How many people have changed their careers? How many people have ended relationships or begun relationships? It has been a time of tremendous change. I believe that in the silence, even though our quote unquote lockdowns were devastating on many levels, it was also a time for us to be quiet and to start listening to what our hearts really, really desired, and to actually take action on that. It was a pause. I think there was benefit in it. I'm not saying all of it was beneficial, but everything is moving much, much faster. I think we can all agree on that. The universe is expanding faster than we ever realized. The new measurements have proven that out. The sun and the earth are going through massive changes. Not only that, but the solar system, in fact, the entire galaxy, and all of it is expanding and evolving. So are we, right? We are a part of this. The main thing for us to recognize is that we have a choice. We have a consciousness about how we go about these changes. And I keep thinking, what is it that we're asking of ourselves in these times? Waking up to the fullest manifestations of who we really are. And that all these changes that I mentioned, all these people moving around, I think it's responding to some deep yearning that their life becomes a reflection of who they are as a spiritual being, not just the other way around, you know? So let's talk about this, why World Unity Week, when we're talking about the energies of the earth and the new earth. Okay, so it's the setup that we have here on planet Earth is one of duality, right? It's a yes, no, either or, black and white tug of war between whose opinion is this and whose opinion is that. And boy, has that been on display ever more obviously over the last 4 years. It's like, and the slicing and dicing of issues that we can now have opinions on and get riled up about. I mean, they just keep coming out of the woodwork, you know. After a while, it becomes so obvious that the setup is to get us to bite and get into that tug of war, grab onto the rope and yank as hard as we can. So, but that is not, I don't think, what we're being really called to do. That would be an old world dynamic. And we're being asked to change to something different. Now, being asked to change usually brings up a lot of anxiety and nervousness. You know, like, I kind of want to just have things stay the way they are. I get nervous when I don't know what's ahead. And that turns into resistance, right? And remember, the wave said, we really don't want to be resisting everything. I love this quote from Craig Hamilton I found years ago. He said, everybody wants to be enlightened, but nobody wants to change. So how can we make change a little easier? Because the old models of change were hard. They took a long time. We had to go into a cave. We're hardwired not to change, actually. You know, if you find a cave and it's safe, you stay in the cave until a big ferocious animal comes to the mouth of the cave or coming down the mountain, and you have to go somewhere else. And then you're at the mercy of whatever, right? So I understand the resistance piece, but that kind of reaction is, again, old world. This 3D time, space, and gravity thing we've got that we're in it's really kind of an illusion that we've agreed to. I mean, we know there are other dimensions, but we've agreed to meet here in this time on this planet with this setup. And what we really want to do is figure out a way to rise above that, rise beyond that, expand beyond that, because all the old structures are breaking up, as we well know. And so that means there's going to be a shakeup of all relationships and cleaning out of closets of all kinds. To me, it feels like in 3D reality that we're operating with a very low ceiling, like this picture demonstrates. And what we want to do is move into non-duality. This is the key to shifting the paradigm that from old world to new world, old earth to new earth. So here we have this beautiful infinity wave, an energetic gift from a loving universe to help us evolve easily and smoothly into the next level of reality as multi-dimensional beings. And I'll talk about that. This is a tool. It's brimming with highly purified love and compassion, as I said, and really delivers an overall sense of well-being, peace, and connectedness. It is also an incredible tool for co-creating change on every level. So I'm going to give you a little example of that in a minute. One of the things we can do, it's very simple, to unhook from duality. Remember the yes, no, right, wrong, either or thinking? When we say yes and, all of a sudden, we're not in duality anymore. Just those two simple little words. If you find yourself saying, yes, but, switch it up. Say yes, and see how that feels. I feel a complete shift when I use yes, and. Because right away, we are now talking about an ability for there to be more than one point of view, more than one reality at the same time. As soon as we introduce that, there's more than one reality at the same time. It's like a window open up. I think of it like going from a regular book to a pop-up book. All of a sudden, oh, well, there might even be more than two realities at one time. What if there are 4 or 10 or whatever? Which, I mean, I totally buy into. But it's just a very simple practice to start the engine of non-duality. Because I think that this is our opportunity to really work with the universe, work with what we see here in 3D, and create something completely different. So the story I'll tell you is that it was about a year after I started working with the infinity wave, and I went with a girlfriend of mine who needed to have surgery, very, very delicate, specific surgery on her neck, involved bone, muscle, and nerve. So she had to have this specialized man who only operated in Beverly Hills, California. So I went out to be her advocate, and everything about that trip was in the wave bubble, as we call it. We got a $500 a night room for $100. Everything just flowed. And she had done something called hypnosis before surgery. And her last piece that she needed to do was to write down on a piece of paper what she wanted the anesthesiologist to say before and after she was in anesthesia. So to, program the subconscious mind for better results, etc. So she wrote it on this beautiful Italian paper, and she was holding it, and we'd gone all the way through the process. And the last thing was, she was in her cap and gown. She was waiting to go into surgery, and we were waiting for the anesthesiologist, who finally showed up. And it was this middle-aged gal. She had on this funny little hat, kind of looked like a pizza hat, a mini version. And it had little flecks of red on it. It was very unusual. I never saw a surgery hat like that. But anyway, I was sitting at the foot of the bed, and I was sitting opposite where the doctor came and stood with a clipboard in her hand. And the doctor just never looked at my friend, never recognized anything, just went straight into, we're operating on blah, 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 and she went into all this medicalese. And I mean, she seemed like a person who was locked in a block of ice and not relating in her humanity in any way, and certainly not relating to my friend. And my friend started to get nervous. I could see her kind of tearing up, because this was so important to her that she have an anesthesiologist who would take her paper and do what she asked. I mean, she was nervous anyway. It was very difficult surgery. She was, she could have come out not walking. I mean, there are all kinds of things that could have happened. So she had every right to be nervous. So this was kind of the pinnacle of all of that. And I looked at this doctor. A year before, I might have said, "Oh, doctor, would you mind? My friend is really nervous." And I would have said something like that, But I'd been working with the wave for a year, and I didn't think that way anymore. So I said, inside, I said, I don't like this picture. I want a different one. And out of my solar plexus came this, I'm going to say bomb, because it was so forceful, of infinity wave, just blasted her. At the same time, I said, "I like your hat," with absolutely no inflection at all. And the woman, her head popped up. She looked at my friend. She said, "Hey, babe, how are you? I'm so happy I'm going to be helping you today. Oh, look, what do you have for me? It looks like a recipe. It's so beautiful." I love to say things like this. I always do it. And she turned on a dime. less than a nanosecond. It was so abrupt that both of us had our mouths hanging open. And that's when I realized that the wave was, yes, it was this amazing tool for restoring peace and ease into the system, but it also could pack a punch when necessary and actually shift reality. And that's when I also realized, like, I didn't say in my mind, oh, you know what she needs more of, yeah, because that my mind isn't big enough to imagine the power that could happen if you actually employ something like this. It turned out so much better, and it really most beautifully fed the doctor, who was probably exhausted. She'd probably been doing, how many hours of surgery, we don't even know. And she needed that blast of love and compassion for herself. So this is an example of how we can use our energetic technologies to shift so-called reality. And I like the idea of living a multi-dimensional life. So we have our feet on the ground. We have our senses that are one of the most beautiful things about being humans. But we also have this connection to what's above us and what's down in the earth. Our beautiful connection to the wisdom and the spiritual nature of the earth. And that's, I like to think of it as just living as very tall people, with our connection above and our connection below. So really what we're talking about here is a leap into another reality, a leap into a reality where we're able to swim in a bigger fish pond, to see the world with a bigger lens. And this is the paradigm shifting that I'm talking about. It is, there are so many techniques and ways to to do this. The wave is specific to help us do it quickly. This is kind of like the cosmic easy button. And that's where imagination and leaping off the edge is required here, because we're not used to things being fast, and we're not used to things to be simple. The great thing about the wave is it is so simple, and it can't be misconstrued. There's no language that can get in the way of the geometry that can take us down a wrong path. The geometry is the geometry, and you just use it. So simple. And I love that about it. So the wisdom of the wave, aside from what I've been telling you about already, is that we are made of water, for one thing. And what does water have to do with it? Well, if any of you are familiar with cymatics, that is the study of how frequency affects things. There are videos you can watch. I like the ones with the sand the best, the sand on a metal plate. And you'll hear a sound kind of like a pin whistle, those things we used to do. And they do it very slowly. And as they reach each note, the sand on the metal plate vibrates into a different geometry. In between notes, the vibration goes into chaos. And then the next note, it goes into a new geometry, into chaos, into a new geometry. So this is a way of thinking about the water in our bodies doing the same thing. Everybody knows that when we go out on the busy street and the horns are honking and the lawnmowers are going and all the cacophony of sound out there, our water can become cacophonous as well. It can become disjointed. But if you just ding a beautiful crystal bowl or a chime or a gong, all of a sudden your water comes right back into synchrony, into harmony. The wave is this 10th dimensional love and compassion. So when we apply it to our physical bodies, and that uses our imagination, let's say, to wrap it around the top of our heads, the bottom of our feet, and around the top again. Now we are inviting the vibration of 10th dimensional love and compassion into our fields, literally into the body, and the body relaxes. It's phenomenal. I did an interview last week with a young man who has an amazing story to tell, and I invite everybody to go to my YouTube channel to hear Levi speak. It'll blow your mind. But in the middle, he got kind of he was very emotional about a memory that he was recalling, and so I just stopped him and I said, everybody, let's just send Levi a wave. And he went from this state like this, he just went, and then he said, wow, I really felt that. I'm really calm right now. And it happened like that. And like I said, because we're quantum, it's a quantum energy, even though we were scattered all around the world, he received our intention, 30 seconds of sending the wave to him. So this is one of the ways that the water in us rises to our higher selves when we employ the wave. We also need to remember that the wave itself is a living energy. It's not just an image of that figure eight. It can be any color, by the way. There's no wrong way to do it. It can be huge. It can be tiny. You can use it on your body. All of this is outlined in my little book that I have, and you can. It's alive. If you invite it into your being, it will tell you how it wants to be used. Like sometimes I think, oh, I'm going to just send it to somebody and wrap them in blue water. But oh no, I see 8 or 3 orange waves dancing around them. Okay, that's what that person needs right now. It's so great because you can kind of get out of the way and let it do its thing. The infinity wave is not a religion. It's non-dominational. It can stand next to any practice that you have. If you go into meditation, just wrap yourself in the wave and then do your meditation. Put it in your heart. We're going to do that later. And it'll just enhance everything that you're doing. There's absolutely no dogma around it or language barrier. And you could teach a child how to do it in a few seconds. Now, the geometry of the wave. This is something that Antonia can talk for hours about. But I just love it. I'm showing it on its side right now to say that it doesn't have to be in any particular direction. In any event, it demonstrates perfect balance, perfect harmony, infinite flow, and the way that it expands and contracts is so important because that is the rhythm of life. That's the rhythm of our universe. That's the rhythm of everything. We expand, we contract. And if you want to even apply the peduncle to this idea, which I really like to do, I see where the way the images cross but don't touch in the middle, what we might call the 0 point, as being the peduncle. That's the squeeze point. And then we come out of that and we expand to come back in and go through perhaps another peduncle. Life is full of these expansions and contractions, these peduncles, these opportunities to evolve. I also love it when it's turned upwards, like the figure 8, that it demonstrates as above and so below. Now, I tend, in my journeys with the wave, so many things have happened to me, so many openings, and I honestly never could have predicted any of them. I didn't think I would I never wanted to be a channeler, but I am a channeler. I didn't think I would ever be a medium, but I am a medium. All these things have developed as a result of my introduction to the wave and how it has kept me expanding and expanding over time. So one of the things that I was taught along the way was that the earth of us is actually the bottom. That's the below. The earth is the below, not the surface of the earth, which we sometimes think it is. It's actually the earth. And above us is the cosmos or source or whatever you use your own word for it. And it is we who are there in the center. And in the center, we have access to both equally spiritual beings, the beings above, the beings below. And I think that is so amazing. That is our blueprint, I believe. And because the earth can't do all the things that it wants to be done, we are the stewards of the earth. We are going to listen to the earth and do what the earth is asking us to do. Likewise, our guide teams, our God, our source can't make it happen here. We're the conduits to make these things happen, to listen to our hearts, to listen to our guidance, and to put things into action. So we're really that crux right in the center there. And it's really an honor to be in that place and to have this lifetime to be able to listen to both and let them live in our bodies, to the best, for the betterment of all. So along the way, I had a very interesting experience one time that put me in a place where I got to receive this. And I'll just briefly read this. This is a communication from the wave itself. I am the infinity wave, and I wish to speak through you. I am the ebb and flow of life itself. I exist in the realms beyond space and time, and yet contain space and time. I am ever mutable. I am ever in motion. My essence is indescribable. It is rather a sensation of movement, felt and seen in reflection, experienced in reaction. This is why the metaphor of a wave is the closest approximation to what I am. Now, if you can imagine this ever-changing, ever-enlivening energetic of a wave contains what humans call emotions, but on a much more distilled level. Picture the clarity of crystal and imbue that crystal with the thought of love, pure crystalline love, and now immerse that in the wave action, and you begin to understand the incredible power and beauty of this energy. It is available for all. It already exists. It is simply now the job of each and every human being to open the mind to this reality that has always existed. It is the fundamental ingredient to life. It is the well from which all life springs. Becoming one with the wave does not mean there will be no pain. It means you will move through your pain. It means there is a landing point and a tumbling back into the wave. You are always moving, going deeper into this infinite connection, not knowing how you will emerge, but sure you will emerge, only to be tossed in again. Each time you venture forth to ride a wave, you are a little wiser, a little better equipped to stay on your surfboard longer. Share this journey. It is but the beginning of a whole new wave of existence for humanity, and we are grateful for your willingness to tell the story. Doubt not, you are not alone. So I'll skip back to when they told me I should do these workshops and just say that walking as a blind person, energetically speaking, was the most uncomfortable for me. And I realized, though, that I had to make the leap, like my very first slide. And the only way that I could move, my dream was to move from believing to knowing. The only way I was going to do that was if I took the leap and saw if I would be caught, if I would be caught by the loving universe. And I indeed was. And my world, I really went down the rabbit hole, and there were all kinds of paranormal things that happened as a result. And I started to channel these practices. I would get 3 in front of each workshop, and the full workshop was 3 weekends in a row. So by the end, I had 9 of these channeled practices, which I did to crystal bowls back in those days. And I was shocked when these workshops went well, and when people got the wave. And it took, in those days, it took all 3 weekends. Now it's in the morphogenetic field, it's available like that. But in those days, we're working with something new here, and people changed. Their faces changed, their lives changed, there was openness, there was spaciousness, and it wasn't just a good feeling after a workshop. It lasted. And so I repeated that 2 more times. So I had done the 9 months. And after that, I realized this is something. This is significant. This is not just a feel-good thing. This is really activating deep and lasting change. But I was still full of doubts. And because that's what the mind does. We want to rubber band back to what we know, right? It's just our habit. And so it took some practice to keep putting myself into a wave state. So I started to cut out little figure eights and put them around, on my car and on the kitchen and the bathroom, just to remind myself. And that's kind of funny because I'm the one who got got the thing in the first place. It's just that it takes a little doing to create a new habit and a new way of existing. That's what we're talking about. And that's what this beautiful transmission told me as well. So I would just invite you to dance with the wave. And there are all kinds of ways to use it. You can use it in your body. You can use it's great to wrap it around your head and around your feet. When you're in bed, if you wake up at night or you're having a hard time getting to sleep, just imagine a nice trickle of water running around you. And within moments, you'll probably be snoring. You can use it as a connection device. That's one of the best things. Up above your head as far as you want to go, and down into the earth as far as you want to go. I really believe that every person has the ability to have direct contact with source. And this is a great way to get that going with source and with the earth. You can engage with any aspect of nature, trees, rocks, rivers. Be careful if you go to Niagara Falls, though, because it's so powerful, it can actually pull you over the ledge. That almost happened to me. So be mindful. You can, but the most beautiful thing is using it to connect with other people. And that is, I'll show you that in a minute. So invite the wave into your life to dance and play and just see what happens. And we know that there is a much bigger field than even our field. Lynn McTaggart has done so much work with this to understand how a directed thought can change everything, like I demonstrated with the story about the anesthesiologist. So when we come together as a group and we broadcast the wave to a specific place or the world or wherever, a person, it does make a change. It does matter. And that's the beautiful aspect of the quantum that we're hearing more and more about these days. As I was saying, you can use it to connect to other people. The quantum field demonstrates that matter changes when it is observed. And the infinity wave is one way to work with this field. We observe what is, and then apply the wave to shift that reality into something more desirable. Like the story that I told you. I didn't get in there and intention what it should look like. I let the wave do the work. In fact, the wave knew what to do way more than I did. And so it's an intelligence. I think that clearly demonstrates that. Now, this image of waving, they're not exactly waves, but you get the idea. We can do this heart to heart. And it's one of the most beautiful ways to use the wave. You can use it with a person you know, a beloved, and you can tell them or not. My experience is that just about everybody can always use a dose of love and compassion. If you choose, you could do it with somebody you don't know. You can do it while you're standing in line at the grocery store or sitting in traffic. It tends to make things flow much more quickly. But more importantly, it puts you into a flow state. And that's what you really want. When you do it with another person, and going back to the idea of the water in our bodies, what I see in this is the water in the person on the left and the water in the person on the right is now connecting through the love and compassion. So all that conversation is going to rise up out of duality. It's going to reach a new level. We don't have to say which dimension it's in, but we know, I can't tell you how many times I've had this experience. When my son was a teenager, we had a few headbutts, needless to say. I think most of us could probably understand that. And I remember one night, it was really getting heated, and I just started to wave him and wave him. And of course, what I'm giving to him is coming right back to me. So I start to benefit from the love and compassion coming back to me. But he just calmed down. And the next thing I knew, we were having actually a lighthearted conversation about the same topic, but it was a completely different delivery system. We were connecting now on a different level, on a different plane of existence, because we had both been elevated through the 10th dimensional love and compassion. As I said before about going direct, this is just one version of what that might look like. It's very powerful. I recommend going out into nature and standing or sitting and doing this as a practice. It's beautiful, beautiful feeling. And we can do it in a group. This is called the Infinity Wheel. And it is the best way to bring a group into synchrony that I know of. And what I love to do when I do a workshop, I don't have anybody wear name tags or introduce themselves or anything. We just stand in a circle, strangers, and they don't even know how to wave yet. I just say, imagine a figure eight made of flowing water between your heart and the person opposite you. And then there's a second part of this practice, but immediately we are connected and at a high, high level. So then later when we find out names and this and that, it's just like cherry on the top because we've met each other soul to soul. And it's absolutely beautiful. And then we send that wheel off to where it's most needed in the world. And then I just want to say that, what my experience is that there's not an enlightenment under the Bodhi tree necessarily, one big epiphany waiting for us. That's not how I see it. And I doubt that's even what happened to somebody like Buddha or any of the other great masters. I believe it's a series of enlightenments. And they usually happen when we go through the peduncles. So the peduncles push our evolution, we squeeze through, and we gain enlightenment until the next go round. That's how I see this working. So the best way I know of to go forward in this is not as achievement oriented, which we really do so much here in the United States, especially. We're used to rungs and getting better and better. And I want to achieve this. I want, even on a spiritual level. I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that. No. That really doesn't work. What does work is curiosity and a childlike awe and wonder, and just going step by step, hand in hand with creation, to see what's next on your path. I find that staying in wave energy helps me to remain in that state. So as I was saying, it's not a pot of gold at the end. It's a constantly ongoing process. So we're going to do a practice now, and I do not have the music. Oh, yes, I do. Let me see if it works. No. Okay. I'm just going to speak it, and then it's not very long, and I just want to give you a felt sense of the infinity wave in a practice called widening the heart that came to me in a chapel in Glastonbury, England. And it was a moment when I was made aware that I was sitting in judgment of someone, and I was meditating and trying to shift myself back. And at that moment, Yeshua came in to me and just put his hands in my heart and went like this. And that's, it's like, get out of judgment. So that's what this practice simulates. So let's do this. Let's close our eyes. And let's breathe up through the soles of our feet from beautiful Gaia into the heart center. And exhale down into the heart, into the earth. Just depositing into the earth any cobwebs, any heavy energies, and bringing back up into the heart the beautiful nurturing energy of Gaia, and exhaling down, dropping the heavy energies, and just do that for a few moments. Good. And now let's open up the crown of the head. And what we're going to do is breathe up and out, exhaling above like a fountain, and inhaling back into the heart center, all that that realm has to offer us. Exhaling up and out. Inhaling the love, the light, the grace from above. And just continuing like that for a few moments. Beautiful. And now if you can, it's a little tricky, breathe from above and below into the heart center. And exhale out above and below. Takes a little practice. It's just a way of connecting us to both realms, reminding us that we are the conduits to both ends of the spectrum. All right, beautiful. Now imagine that in your heart center, there's a little figure 8 of flowing water. It can be any color or turned in any direction, and the water can be flowing at any rate. Reminding you there's no wrong way to do this. You may need to use your finger just to trace it on your heart, just to get it going. That's fine. And keep your breathing going. And just notice with this little figure 8 in your heart, you may or may not feel a little tug or a little movement or a little softening. And all of that is fine. Now I'm going to invite you to turn the wave so that one loop is facing one rib cage and the other rib cage. So it is parallel to the floor. And now with every in-breath, that wave is going to begin very slowly to stretch towards each rib cage. Take your time, and what you might notice is that the heart might feel a little tight, a little constricted. This is often because we've built up some anxiety or fear, and we're not even aware of it. It creates a kind of wall around the heart. And when we begin to push against it, that's when we say, oh, that's there. Okay. In that case, all you need to do is make the water flow faster. Like a rushing spring river, just allow it to dissolve that resistance. And we don't have to tell a story about what it's about. We just invite the wave to do its work, softening the heart as it widens it across the chest. And now remember that as we invite this energy into the heart center, we are inviting a very distilled version of compassion. Compassion for you, first and foremost. See if you can receive this level of compassion for all you have been through in this lifetime, for all you have struggled for, all your wins and your losses, the things you wish you had done, anything that didn't go exactly the way you wished. Please receive the compassion for yourself now. Let it flood through you. It is infinite and available. We often don't allow ourselves to receive that level of compassion. Very willing to give it to others, but for ourselves, not so much. So let's just stretch the heart a little wider and receive that compassion. And also remember that we're receiving that highly distilled love as well. Love for us, for having made the choice to take on the human form this time. That's a bold choice. Love for the way we have learned to love in this lifetime and demonstrated it and spoken it. Love for the way we delight in this world and for the way we desire to expand and grow and learn. Great love for our willingness to surrender our either-or mindset and to move into non-duality, willingness to stay in curiosity, love for us, for all these things, great gratitude as well. And love for us, our willingness to stand tall for what we believe is truth. Now you may find your heart is fully expanded across the chest, maybe even beyond the walls of your body, or maybe not. Maybe it is still quite small, and that is fine. This is a practice that can be done repeatedly. So from wherever your heart is now, just invite it to move back to where it is most comfortable. We're not used to being that wide, that vulnerable, that safe. But it's a good feeling. So just allow your heart to go back to whatever size is comfortable. And you may invite the wave to stay in your heart for as long as you wish. It will simply be operating in the background. And come on back to the room when you can. And while we're in this altered state, I want to read to you the very first transmission I had. The very first day I received the very first practice. Each person counts. Each person who is drawn to be here will be making a huge contribution to the others. Even if you do not believe you have a meaningful role to play, nothing could be further from the truth. Each of you will be assisting the birth of the other. This work will require courage and will demonstrate the efficacy of non-dual change. The importance of each individual cannot be stressed enough. You are the lights. You will be called upon to use that light. The opportunity to receive direct information will be constant. Being a willing vessel is key. Your preparation, all you have done, is important. And know that all of it will be for the higher good. Pay attention to your dreams and take time each day in silence to hear. Thank you. What this told me was that there's no more solo flying. We are in community, and World Unity Week and what Antonia and Janice have done here is such a beautiful demonstration of how we can no longer fly by ourselves. We need each other. It's why my company, I called it the Wave Energy Center for Conscious Evolution, but the short version was We Infinity. It's the we. It's no longer the me. But you all know that. The main reason I'm saying this is that how we're going to leap forward together is no longer hierarchical. We are really all on the same level doing this together. So that's the end of my talk. I wanted to just let you know that I have this book that basically is the handbook of the infinity wave. So it tells the story in more detail, and then it goes into all the many ways, and that's only scratching the surface, but the many ways that the infinity wave can be used. And the 9 practices are available through the book. The 9 practice, so you can use the wave on a daily basis in some of the ways that I've demonstrated today, but the wave for an evolutionary shift or leap are the 9 practices that came in 2011 that I ran, those initial workshops, and the one at Antonia's beautiful place in Virginia. So those are available through the book and outlined through the book. So if you're ready for an evolutionary leap, you can go to this website here and get the book. It's in ebook form now. I'm in the midst of getting it printed. So you can buy either the ebook form or an advanced copy, get the ebook, and I'll send you out the hard copy when they're done. Okay, that is it, my friends. Now, I'm just wondering if there are some questions at all. I have not been able to look at the chat, so I have no idea what's in there. So if you want to raise your hand or say anything, make any comments, I'm so happy to receive them. Dana, did you want to say something?
I just love this presentation so much. Can you hear me okay?
Lean a little closer.
Can you hear? This is my. Can you hear? I just want to make sure my mic is working.
Okay.
Yes. So first of all, I love the necklace.
Oh, thank you.
And I really love this presentation, and I love the infinity wave. It's like the perfect geometry for me because I love infinity and I love water. And I believe water is like a higher dimension of consciousness, and I feel like I embody the essence of water. So, and it's about love and compassion, which is also what I'm here to combine. So the whole thing is like perfect. I just resonate with it very deeply.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And I'm so glad you were here. And it seems like you're really tuned into this already. So happy to have you here. Thank you. Anybody else? Comment or question? Nice to see some familiar faces here. Thank you for coming, friends. Yeah, nobody has a question at all, huh?
Are you still communicating with the consciousnesses behind it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's consistent now. What used to be something I would dive into, as appropriate, now it's all the time. What happened was kind of interesting to me, at least. When the lockdown thing happened, I was trying to think of what I could possibly do to help, people. And I thought, well, I've got all these wave meditations. Maybe I'll just go online and start doing them. So on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, I started to do the infinity wave meditations for free, just for anybody who wanted to show up. And I never felt comfortable, let's put it this way, channeling in front of anybody. I just did it on my own, and then I would bring forth the message. And my, they're rascals over there, up there, around there, wherever they are. They're rascals because after about 3 months, all of a sudden, different words started coming into my head, and I'm in the middle of the meditation. I'm not going to stop, right? And they start taking us into this whole different area and all different lessons. And after about another 3 months, and I didn't say anything, but I was like, what's going on? And after about 3 months, right in the middle of a meditation, they said, we are the Ahmad, and we have been guiding you for the last 3 months. And we are tutoring you, and we are a group that are interested in groups who want to evolve. So then they tutored us for a year, and then they just one day they graduated us, and they said there will be another group coming in. And about 2 months later, the Hathors came in, and they've been working with us for the last almost year. And so twice a month now, I have free meditations on Monday nights. I never know who's going to arrive. Sometimes it's a Hathor, sometimes it's someone else. But they had to come in through the back door, so I didn't have resistance. It's so ironic. And so, now it's just a clear, communication. If I choose to open up to it, they're always there. Someone's always there. It's kind of a revolving door, actually, but it's always fun, and I stay in curiosity. That's the only way I could do it. If I started to think about what the heck am I doing, I'd get too nervous. So, anybody else?
Quick question. Hope, did I hear you say, I was heard some noise here. I did, that you channeled the Hathors?
The Hathors, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Are you getting their sound and things like that?
Well, I don't get their sound. I get a very strong. I get their words very, very strongly, and their visuals. They told, a couple of months ago, they were teaching us, I don't remember what exactly, but they said that underneath the altar rooms in the Egyptian temples, the pyramids and not so much the pyramids, the temples, there was another room that was where the high priests and priestesses would go. And that it was that room that had the most resonance, the most energy, the power, and it would rise up into the altar room. And so they went into great description. They showed me the picture of it. They brought everybody into that room so that we could experience, etherically what that was like. And then about 2 weeks after that, I was reading a book, and it said, well, actually, underneath the altar rooms in the Egyptian temples, there is and it described exactly what they had told me, but I didn't know that it was there. So they're wonderful because they're always instructing us, and they're very, I still am working on the right word. They're kind of strict. There's not a lot of wiggle room. And the Ahmad were very runny and warm and lovey-dovey and all that stuff. The Hathors are very, this is, and so it's like it's like going to graduate school.
Yeah.
And I love the Hathors. I've loved them for years. But this is my first time experiencing them directly.
Wow.
It's really been a good learning opportunity.
Yeah, I've read many of their transmissions through several people, but yeah, I've been a fan of the Hathors for quite a while. I just wondered, they're also into sound a lot, and I've heard their sounds from time to time, like music, kind of
Well, normally I have Gary Malkin's music playing during the transmission, and I think they like that a lot. In the old days, as I said, I played the crystal bowls for every one of the transmissions, and that's just fantastic. So bowls don't transfer so well sound wise onto Zoom, so I use Gary's music, which is great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely loved seeing and hearing the evolution, since I've really heard more than just a few words. And it's interesting the parallel of some of the phraseology that we're using, and it's really cool. And I just want to thank you for being the conduit and being the person out front. I know what that's like. And yeah, being asked to step forward when you say, what am I standing forward for? So thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. It fits
Thank you.
what we're doing.
Honestly, it's such an honor to be with you and Janice, and it's great to be able to share this. That's my mission, is to share this with the world. That's what they told me to do, and that's what I'm doing. So you gave me another opportunity, so I really appreciate it.
I got it. And thank you.
you.
You infinity.
Yes.
Much love
Bye.
to everybody.
Thanks, honey.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hmm.